Hello, this is Michael White here. I'll be reading from the 7th grade science textbook. We're on Chapter 2, The Tools of Science. This is Lesson 1, Measurement, a Common Language. My Planet Diary. Extreme measurements. Here are some fascinating animal measurements. The Queen Alexandra's birdwing butterfly has a wingspan of 30 centimeters. A newborn giraffe stands 1.8 meters tall. When a blue whale exhales, the spray from its blowhole can reach up to 9 meters into the air. A colossal squid's eye measures about 28 centimeters across. With a mass of only 20 grams, the rhinoceros beetle can lift 850 times its own mass. A hummingbird's egg has a mass of about half a gram, while an ostrich egg has a mass of about 1,500 grams. Why do scientists use a standard measurement system? Standard measurement is important. Without it, cooks would use handfuls and pinches instead of cups and tablespoons. Scientists also use standard measurements. This allows scientists everywhere to repeat experiments. In the 1790s, scientists in France developed the metric system of measurement. The metric system is a measurement system based on the number 10. Modern scientists use a version of the metric system called the International System of Units, or SI, from the French Système International des Units. Using SI as the standard system of measurement allows scientists to compare data that communicate with each other about the results. The prefixes used in the SI system are shown in Figure 1. What are some SI units of measure? Scientists regularly measure attributes such as length, mass, volume, density, temperature, and time. Each attribute is measured in an SI unit. Length. Length is the distance from one point to another. In SI, the basic unit for measuring length is the meter. Many distances can be measured in meters. For example, you can measure a softball throw, or your height in meters. 1 meter is about the distance from the floor to a doorknob. The tool used to measure length is a metric ruler. For measuring lengths smaller than a meter, you use the centimeter and millimeter. For example, the length of this page is about 28 centimeters. For measuring a long distance, such as the distance between cities, you use the unit called a kilometer. The table at the left shows you how to convert between different metric length units. Try measuring the turtle shell in Figure 2. Mass. A balance, such as the one shown in Figure 3, is used to measure mass. Mass is a measure of the amount of matter in an object. A balance compares the mass of an object to a known mass. In SI, the basic unit for measuring mass is the kilogram. The mass of cars, bicycles, and people is measured in kilograms. If you want to measure much smaller masses, you would use grams or milligrams. The table at the right shows how to convert between kilograms, grams, and milligrams. Unlike mass, weight is a measure of the force of gravity acting on an object. A scale is used to measure weight. When you stand on a scale on Earth, gravity pulls you downward. This compresses springs inside the scale. The more you weigh, the more the springs compress. On the Moon, the force of gravity is weaker than it is on Earth, so the scale spring would not compress as much on the Moon as on Earth. Unlike weight, your mass on the Moon is the same as your mass on Earth. Volume. Instead of measuring your juice, you just look to see how much of the glass you have filled up. Volume is the amount of space an object or substance takes up. In SI, the basic unit for measuring volume is the cubic meter. Other units include the liter and the cubic centimeter. Cubic meters or centimeters are used to measure the volume of solids. The liter is commonly used for measuring the volume of liquids. The green table shows how to convert between these units. Volume of liquids. You are probably familiar with the liter from seeing 1 liter and 2 liter bottles. You can measure smaller liquid volumes by using the milliliter. There are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. To measure the volume of a liquid, read the level at the bottom of the meniscus, or curve. What is the volume of this liquid? Volume of rectangular solids. You measure small solids in cubic centimeters. A cube with 1 centimeter sides has a volume of 1 cubic centimeter. Solids with larger volumes are measured with the cubic meter. A cubic meter is equal to the volume of a cube with 1 meter sides. To calculate a rectangular solid's volume, multiply length times width times height. When you use this formula, you must use the same units for all the measurements. What is this cereal box's volume? Volume of irregular solids. Suppose you wanted to measure the volume of a rock. Because of its irregular shape, you cannot measure a rock's length, width, or height. However, you can use the displacement method shown on this page. To use this method, you immerse the object in water and measure how much the water level rises. Density. Look at Figure 5. Two objects of the same size can have different masses. This is because different materials have different densities. Density is a measure of how much mass is contained in a given volume. Units of density. Because density is made up of two measurements, mass and volume, an object's density is expressed as a relationship between two units. In SI, the basic unit for measuring density is kilograms per cubic meter. Other units of density are grams per cubic centimeter and grams per millimeter. Density of substances. The table in Figure 6 lists the densities of some common substances. The density of a pure substance is the same for all samples of that substance. For example, all samples of pure gold, no matter how large or small, have a density of 19.3 grams per cubic centimeter. Once you know an object's density, you can determine whether the object will float in a given liquid. An object will float if it is less dense than the surrounding liquid. For example, the density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. A piece of wood with a density of 0.8 grams per cubic centimeter will float in water. A ring made of pure silver, which has a density of 10.5 grams per cubic centimeter, will sink. Temperature. Is it cold out this morning? How high will the temperature rise? You probably use temperature measurements often in your everyday life. So do scientists. Scientists commonly use the Celsius temperature scale to measure temperature. On the Celsius scale, water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius and boils at 100 degrees Celsius. In addition to the Celsius scale, scientists sometimes use another temperature scale called the Kelvin scale. In fact, the Kelvin scale is the official SI unit for temperature. Kelvin is useful in science because there are no negative numbers. Units on the Kelvin scale are the same size as those on the Celsius scale, as shown in Figure 7. The table below shows how to convert between Celsius and Kelvin. A thermometer or temperature probe is used to measure temperature. When you place a liquid thermometer in a substance, the liquid inside the thermometer will increase or decrease in volume. This makes the level rise or fall. Wait until the level stops changing. Then read the number next to the top of the liquid in the thermometer. A temperature probe is like a digital thermometer. It records temperature as electric signals, which are converted into electronic data. Time. You push the run even faster with the finish line in sight, but an opponent is catching up. Just 1 second can mean the difference between winning and losing. What is a second? The second is the SI unit used to measure time. Just like all the SI units, the second is divided into smaller units based on the number 10. For example, a millisecond is 1/1000th of a second. You use minutes or hours for longer periods of time. There are 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Clocks and watches are used to measure time. Some clocks are more accurate than others. Most digital stopwatches measure time accurately to 1/100th of a second, as shown in Figure 8. Devices used for timing Olympic events measure time to 1/1000th of a second, or even closer.